Welcome to a Drop Tent Media production.
Welcome back to Seriously Dad. Today we have in studio Mr. Drew Duck, owner of Comedy on the Crick. But we're going to talk about so much more than Comedy on the Crick. We're going to get into his time in prison. We're going to get into his daughter having to go visit him there. And we're going to talk about the story and the life he's created from that. You're not going to want to miss this one. So enjoy.
Seriously, Dad?
Seriously, Dad? Two father comedians out of Philadelphia. Seriously, Dad?
Dad? Seriously?
Dad?
Seriously? Seriously?
We are again. I don't know what episode we're in. Doesn't matter.
14.
It doesn't matter what episode we're in. What matters is we got Seriously Dead, and we got. I'm going to go ahead and say probably before the episode even runs, probably one of the best guests we've had on. I think it's going to be a good episode. That's what I'm telling you.
That's a strong statement.
That's a strong. Yeah, no pressure, bro. So if you're in your car, make some news. Make some noise. We got Drew Duck in the house from Comedy on the Crick.
Heck yeah.
Comedy on the Crick. If you're in the Philadelphia area, you probably know what Comedy on the Crick is. It's a phenomenal comedy series, brand, show, whatever you want to call it, all around Philadelphia. How many shows in a row have you done that have been sold out?
I don't even know.
All
Honestly,
of them?
like most. I mean, if it wasn't sold out, it was the last one we didn't sell out was in the middle of August.
Okay.
Like
There you
because
go.
everyone was on vacation.
Almost a year ago.
Yeah.
Right? Kind of almost a year. You know, maybe reaching. But here he is. He's a brainchild behind Comedy on the Crick. He's a father.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to talk about being a dad. We're going to talk about some adversity because you have a very interesting story.
Yeah.
And we want to learn more about it.
So I've been told.
All right. Let's get right in. So, well, let's start with your parenting. How many kids do you have?
2 daughters.
2 daughters. So a room full of daughter dads.
How old are
Yeah.
they?
My oldest is 19. My youngest is 6.
Oh, wow. That's a
Yeah.
spread, my man.
Got a little gap.
Yeah, that's
A
13
little bit
years
of a
in.
gap. A little bit of a
I always
gap.
say I planned it out perfectly because it was just when my oldest was old enough to babysit.
That's
There
what
you
I was
go.
thinking in my
That
head.
is-
That's
exactly-
what
that
I
is
was
a
thinking in my
trick.
head.
Listen, babies.
That's not cheap.
That's what I was just going to say. It's not cheap at all.
I was just looking. There was a comment section going in one of the things about what you pay a babysitter, and like, what would you think?
It's got to be up there.
He's like, I don't have
don't
to
know.
know. He's
Well,
like,
yeah,
I'm
no,
like,
I don't know.
know.
It's not only paying it's the fact of who the hell do you trust with
Well,
your
that's true.
kids
Yeah,
first.
That's the other one, right?
So, like,
right.
being a teacher, I've been like my wife and I have the inside track because we'll pick kids that we see are good kids, or we can ask other
Yeah.
teachers. Like we can look up their grades if we wanted to. But yeah, like 15. They say the average is like 12 to 15 an hour. But if you have more than one kid, which I do, I have 2 kids and one of my
Yeah.
special needs.
Yeah.
So, you know, luckily my special needs is very hands off. So it's like, but in certain instances, you might be paying 20, 25 an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then are they doing stuff around the house for you? Are you buying them dinner? Are you, you know, unless you're throwing in some perks. Like that's what we do. We get whatever their favorite thing is from whatever restaurant, make sure they have a drink in the house, and then I pay them on the 12 to 15 an hour
Right.
range.
So it's a good couple $100.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it can be if you're
Yeah.
gone for 4 or 5,
There you
6
go.
hours, you know.
There you are. It's
crazy.
No, he doesn't have that problem. He's got kids watching kids.
I was at 19, so is 19 still in the house?
Yes.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
26
she
is
actually
insurance.
she had a little hiccup and just moved back in a couple weeks ago.
All right.
During her senior year of high school. See, I don't take shit. Oh, am I allowed to?
You
Of
can-
course
oh,
you're
yeah,
right.
yeah,
Shit,
you're
shit, shit.
fine.
There you
Yeah,
go. There you go.
So all throughout her school years, I grounded her if she didn't get good grades.
Oh, you're great. Okay.
Her
What
senior
is that? Wait, can I ask what that means when you say you grounded her?
Well, exactly. Just like she's 10 when she's 18. I don't care. You're
No,
you're under
like-
my roof. You're losing your phone.
Okay.
Taking the TV and all that out of the room.
Okay.
No shit.
It's harder with. Oh yeah, I've done
Door off the hinges?
I've never put my hands because I have daughters. So it's
Right,
not
right,
like if
right,
I had a
right,
son,
right.
I could just smack him upside the head.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're
Like
right.
with
you're
my
right,
daughter,
you're right.
I got to do shit that's like it has to be like, okay, I got my point across.
Yeah.
One of the things because she's like me, she's hard headed.
Okay.
She doesn't learn from the first time of touching a stove.
Yeah.
She got to
She has to touch it from
3 or
every
4
every
times.
angle, right?
Yeah.
So actually, her last year of middle school, going into high school, first marking period, she got bad grades. Took her phone, grounded her, whatever. Second marking period, brought the grades back up.
Nice.
Third marking period, bad grades again.
Yeah.
I took the phone again. Well, this time I did a little. I took the phone outside, smashed it with a hammer while she screamed to my ex, Tammy, tell her to stop.
Snap. Oh, snap.
And I told her, now you know I'm serious, but if you play with me and do this again, because this seems to be a every other marking period thing, I will shave your head and you will go into high school with a bald head.
Okay.
So try me if you want to, but you already, and
No shaved head.
that marking
No
period,
shaved
she got all A's and like 2 B's.
So there was a story, and I shared. I don't know if you remember. I shared. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Something about, was it about the hair stuff?
That it was that a girl was the bully. This girl was a bully
Yeah.
on the bus, and so the video was of this dad.
Walking.
He made the girl walk home from school 5 miles, and he drove behind her
driving
like
like 2 miles
like
an hour,
like
riding
2
a
miles an hour,
brake,
like
yeah.
a car would for like following a bike race. And he was like, he filmed it and making the thing. This is what happens when you're a bully. You don't get the privilege of going on the bus anymore.
Yeah.
Now you got to walk to school. And it was on this panel of mostly females, like a talk show. And they were talking about whether they supported what he did or didn't. And it sounds to me like you were walking that path.
you would be on that-
You and that guy would
Oh,
get
yeah.
and part of me was like, yes, like that's
well,
retribution.
you're a teacher. You're a teacher.
Yeah, so it's
So
just
you
interesting.
gotta
'cause-
love, like-
well, I like that you're about it because I feel like that's how I want to be with my daughters, and like I'll do the thing with you don't pick your toys up, I go get the trash bag, and they see me walking with the trash bag, and I've thrown toys out. We just threw 2
rid of
bags
them.
out last trash day because it was just if you're not going to pick up and take care of them, then
They're
you
not
don't
that important.
deserve them.
They're not important.
And if you just keep allowing it to happen, then the thing's going to happen. But if they see there's a consequence to the action, now, and she had the first chance, but then she slipped again. There were, now she's back in.
Now, were you a big school? Were you like a big school guy? You had good grades, bad grades? You take it seriously?
I got great grades up until sometime in middle school.
Okay.
And then it just went. It wasn't like my grades fell off because I was always a smart person, but it was so my freshman year in high school, I passed academically, but missed
Too much school to
so
go.
many days that there wasn't even enough summer school to make up. But luckily, because of the principal we had, they still passed me.
All right.
So
They were like, we don't want him.
like
Another
literally, I
year.
remember like the first end of the first marking period, they had to call my mom and she had to come in, and she was a single mother. Like she left before, like I would act like I was getting ready. She would go out the door
and
before the bus came, and then I'd be like, okay, Madden, hit my boy up, yo, let's go.
Come
let's go.
through, let's-
I
Yeah,
did
let's
the
kick it, yeah.
exact same.
I did
My
too.
mom was going back to nursing school and working a job at Turkey Hill. So like she would go before I left in the morning. So I would pretend like I was going to school, double back. I would sit home all day, watch TV, watch just trash. Like it wasn't
Jerry
Jerry
Springer.
Springer.
There wasn't even
it was
good
Richard
TV.
Bay. Actually, I watched the Richard
I
Bay
don't know what the
show,
fuck that is.
which is like pre Jerry Springer. It was like on for like 4 years on HBO, but it was that style. Just trash.
Yeah,
like,
there was no good. There was
absolute
nothing
trash.
good to watch.
And it was like
nothing
one of the
entertaining.
episodes was like country drag queens versus city drag queens. Like it was just Family Feud meets Jerry Springer is what it was.
You're like, I'm glad I'm not in history class because I
Exactly.
miss all of this.
And
I did the same shit.
But
I did the same shit.
I one time I got caught. Well, I didn't get caught. She came home in between the two, and I didn't realize. So I had to like make it look like nobody had been there, and I went up and hid in the closet in my room.
Oh, shit.
But I felt so guilty that I ended up confessing.
Oh Jesus! That would have been a great story if you were like, she
know.
opened the closet and I was like E.T. standing there.
I
and
got
he didn't
away
know
with
me.
it, and then the guilt took me over. So that Irish Catholic Scranton guilt. took
See,
over.
I'm more denied. Like I remember the one time
I denied.
because my buddy, it was like literally the first day of high school we skipped. It was a buddy. I lived in an apartment complex. A buddy of mine was going to Catholic school when I was going to public school, but we had the same bus stop because it was at the apartment complex. And we walk up, and I'm like, "Oh shit, this is your bus stop?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "You feel like going to school?" He's like, "No, not really. Let's go play Madden." All right, cool. We go back. So me and him used to skip all the time together, and we would order pizza from the local pizza shop down the street. Well, the one time we ordered pizza, and then some chicks that we knew from Ben Salem called, and they skipped school too.
Oh yeah.
So we like called to cancel, and they're like, "Well, the pizza's already in the oven." We're like, "Well, we're leaving on our bikes on a fucking mission right now, so I don't know what to tell you." And they were like, "Well, you can't cancel." I'm like, "Well, good luck. There's going to be no one here." So we leave. It's literally like because every other Friday, my mom used to order pizza. So she calls the place to order, and they're like, "You're on the no delivery list."
Oh,
so she's like,
shit,
"Why
you
are we
got in
on the no delivery
in
list for
trouble.
Originals Pizza?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't even know what
See, you ordered
they were-
pizza from Liam Neeson, and he was like, "I will find you."
I have a set of rules.
I was
that
literally like,
is-
I have no clue. I don't know. I mean, I love pizza. Why would we be banned?
You got cut off from the pizza joint. Damn. You
funny.
abused the privilege.
Yeah.
So you're a girl dad, you're strict as can be. You take the job very seriously.
Yes.
But we talked about this before. You have a very interesting story because there was a period of time where you were absent from your daughter's life.
Yeah.
And you want to go ahead and look right in that camera and tell them what.
Yeah, that was I did some time. I missed so Kayla, my 19-year-old, she was from the age of 1-ish, right before 2, to around 7, I was locked up.
Okay.
Did some dumb stuff in the past, sold drugs, whatever, and got locked up. So it was parenting from behind bars is definitely rough.
Oh my gosh.
Because so how often? I mean, I've watched Locked Up. Let me just premise. Watch a little 60 Days In.
So you got some, what's going on.
I've watched Prison Break back in the day. No, but like once a week, once every other week. How often?
It was so. When I got locked up, you go to county jail.
Okay.
That's where everyone.
Like while you're pending.
Yeah, you're
charges.
pending to go to court, stuff like that.
See, I told you I know.
Then you go if you have a state case or federal case, depending if you go to state prison, federal prison,
Right.
or if you just stay in the county jail. So there, I was right in Doylestown. It wasn't bad because it's 30, 40 minutes away, but the visits there were only through the phone, through the glass, can't touch, nothing like that, and they only lasted a half hour.
Okay. Weekly? You got that weekly?
I forget. I think it was something like you could get one a day or something.
Oh, wow, okay.
Maybe.
So
maybe
now, were you and the baby's mother at that point is still in a relationship, or were you guys still?
Oh no, yeah, we weren't.
So was it then like your parents' job to then bring the child if they were gonna?
Well, it was my mother and grandmother basically were her babysitters.
Okay, got it.
You know what I mean? Anytime she wanted to go have a good time, go out for the weekend, go this. Like my mother and grandmother had my daughter at least every weekend.
Okay.
And then on top of that, usually some weekdays or whatever.
Yeah, shout out for grandma, man. That was cool.
Yeah. Grandma's always stepping up.
She's R.I.P., but she was the best.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, so it was great because then I could call home and talk to her. Because once I got sent upstate, I was all the way out by Pittsburgh.
Oh man, now you're talking 5-6 hour
6-hour drive.
Oh man.
Yeah.
For a 30 minute through glass visit.
Yeah. Well, no, at that
when
you're upstate, that's when you can get like
Set at a
hug,
table,
contact, right? Like I still remember like one of the visits out there. Like I said, we're out by Pittsburgh. One thing I didn't know is how much Pittsburgh people hate Philly anything.
Yeah,
And I don't mean just Philly sport. Like they hate Philly pretzels. Like just because it's
they
Philly.
Do, they do. There's a thing.
And I didn't know that until I was locked up out there. So we're at one visit and my daughter came up and one of the COs that was cool. Like you can
That's
go up
corrections officer in case you don't know.
I watch Shawshank. Shawshank is my shit. I know what's going on here.
correctional officer for
That's
those watching at home.
a fictitious one in New England.
But he was, one of the guards that was monitoring the visit. You can go up and get certain games like checkers or Uno cards and
All
stuff
right,
like
that's
that
cool.
to play with your family while you're having a visit. So my daughter goes up to get Uno cards or something and asks him, and he goes, "Only if you say the Steelers are the best." And now I raised my daughter, so she knows. And she turns to him and goes, "I'll never say that even when I die." And I was like, proud dad moment there.
EATL.
So, but it was rough though, because all the way out there in a span of 4 years, I saw her 3 times.
Oh man.
Oof.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's geographically,
It's
like you
just
said, it doesn't
not
make
only
a
it's
lot of
the money, like after I got locked up, the money's gone.
Right.
So-
right. No, the income's down.
Now,
Bills
was
are
this-
struggling with mom and grandma living at the home, and they barely have money to make bills, let alone
Yeah. Now, was
And
this
those-
pre, like, this was like, what, 2012, 11, 12?
This was 04.
04. Oh, okay.
04, 05 to.
So this was pre, like, really FaceTime.
Oh, there was
like,
no FaceTime.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
2004.
Facebook
Like-
was just
Yeah.
was just
Yeah,
a
only college kids had
Yeah,
Facebook
anyone
back then.
who's watching like Love After
Nokia
Lockup or
flip
those
phone.
shows where they got like tablets and no,
You weren't doing that.
We were.
This
This
is-
was old school phone call, writing letters, and that's it.
Yeah.
Now,
You
were
didn't
you?
get-
Was there like was there a day room area, or were you in your cells?
Well, so
What do you mean for the
depending
visit,
on
right?
if you're in the county or upstate, there's a day room in both.
Okay.
So, but like the reason I hated the county and it was horrible is because they did like bottom tier, top tier, locked down half the day. So like breakfast to lunch, the bottom tier would be out, top tier would be locked in their cell. Lunch to dinner, the opposite.
Reverse.
So it was literally like watching paint dry, like
I
how
bet.
boring it was in there.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So once I got upstate, it was like the prisons are bigger.
There are
There's
these
more
pods
freedom.
or
Like
whatever.
their whole like the one Camp Hill where you go to get classified. There's like over 20 buildings there.
Really?
So each building is its own block. Like if you got to go to the nurse, you got to walk outside. Which being outside alone is like
That's like, oh,
something
I got a
that's
tummy
good. Like,
ache.
Yeah.
It's like
ooh, get some fresh air.
It's
you
like
know
when
what
you're
I
in
mean?
high
Like,
school, you got to go to the
Yeah, that's
bathroom
right,
just
yeah,
so you
it's
can
like
walk
your
around. the
elementary
good-
Well, that's
school
why
all over.
Not only that's why like people like in there people would love to get visits just they not only to see their people but like get that vending machine food.
All right, I'm just gonna say this: honey buns. Is it that's
commissary.
currency, right?
Yeah.
Honey buns. I heard the honey buns.
Well,
like,
they weren't used as the biggest thing upstate used for currency are Newport 100s and
Yeah, that's
picture or ice cream tickets. It's just like a business card size ticket, and you can buy ice cream while you're out at yard or a photo ticket. You get a Polaroid, you get it sent home. I got one from when I
wow.
was all jacked.
Oh wow.
oh my
199
goodness.
pounds, like started getting some abs.
Oh shit.
Ah man, see, it's all right. That's
So let me ask you this, because I got to imagine in this whole thing that you find out that, so you're in the county, right? And it sounds like you could have some decent visits and pretty frequently. And then you get sentenced to when you have to go.
Yeah.
And that's when you find out essentially like, okay, this is how much I am or am not going to see my family.
Yeah.
Is that like, I know like when you're getting sentenced, you got to be like stoic, right? You got to be like a man about your time.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Inside, are you like, oh my fucking God? Are you,
Not so much by that point, because by that point I had already kind of came to grips with
Oh,
everything.
okay.
It was so. So when I got pulled over, I got pulled over. Cop gets out, gets to like my back door. I take off. I'm in a Lincoln Navigator.
Okay.
Take off towards the projects where I know I'm at. It's like a little dead end street, a couple streets up, dead ends to the woods behind this church. I get out, I run one way, my buddy runs the other. I get caught, he gets away.
Okay.
At that point, because this is my first time,
yeah.
like I've been in trouble and even like been in trouble with the law. Like I spent a weekend in jail before this. So it's not like I was, new to getting in trouble, but this was the first time where it was like, oh,
you're
shit,
you're
I'm gonna be doing
trouble.
some time.
Yeah, okay.
They were like when your daughter got that, saw you hammering
I'm
that
like,
cell phone.
they might put
She
this
was
on
like, oh, he's
Yeah.
serious.
I might end up on an episode of Cops or something like this is I did some shit here. So and that was when I was like, so when they first took me in, to the township police station, in the holding cell, that's when I was just like, oh.
So you were just prepping. You were like, okay, so this is going to happen, and I'm going to be
Yeah.
away for a while.
Yeah.
And when that hits, does that hurt? Does it hurt as bad as I imagine? I feel like
Oh,
that's a
you can't
gigantic
imagine.
fucking
You
thing.
can't imagine. It's just imagine you're living life and everything's good. You're making great money, and then all of a sudden, just
Now,
like
are
that.
in your head now? At first, were you like on yourself, like, look what I got myself into, or were you in a headspace where you were like, this is this, like, you were still maybe putting blame on outside, like, oh, had this guy not said this to this? Were you owning
I
how
kinda-
you got there, or were you still kind of like, this is bullshit that I'm here?
No, I took accountability pretty quick.
Okay.
good.
I kind of knew. I even said, like, before I got locked up, like, if I get caught, I'm doing 5 to 10 years probably.
Okay.
I kind of knew, like, in my head, like,
But it was
What the consequences were.
in your mind. The reward at that time was worth the
in
risk.
my, yeah, dude, I was, I mean, I'm,
And I think that's the real thing. I think that's when you go into certain places where those kind of things happen, you can understand that there's a culture there that now all of a sudden people who couldn't see a life for themselves or couldn't see them getting nice things or having certain things, a system presents itself. Even now with like girls and OnlyFans, it's like a way now where we're kind of saying, well, I'm willing to give up X, Y, and Z because
high risk, high reward.
Yeah, so
maybe
that's an
I'll never
honest
be in
thing.
corporate America.
That makes sense.
Now,
You knew going in on that.
at first I did have a lot of the street mentality still, because I did, like, I found out once I got my discovery from my lawyer, I had 4 different CIs. The CI is a confidential informant.
Oh, wow.
For them to get their own confidential informant number, they have to have already had told on someone and been responsible for getting someone locked up.
Ooh.
So I had 4 of those on my paperwork, and then another 5 that told just to, like, they didn't have a CI number, but they were just like, oh yeah, I bought that. Like, there was shit in my Duck is known as a very, violent person. He
Yeah.
always has a handgun on him and all this like crazy,
shit.
like, yeah.
They were.
I had to
like,
discover this thick of like people just ratting.
They were clocking. They were on you. They were watching.
Oh, yeah, they were watching me
your
for
moves.
13 months.
Is that right? Wow.
Okay, so that answers my question because I was going to ask like why did you run, but now it's like the cop knew your license plate. Like you were just like
was on
this
the
is
radar,
bad.
baby.
The wire
Gotcha.
going on here.
Yeah.
And plus, like, I'll always run. Like, I'm going. I'm not going to be the one that shows up like, yeah, I'm here to turn myself in. That's not.
I wasn't sure if it was like a
door.
routine traffic stop, and you were like, well, fuck, I'm riding hot right now.
Well, no.
but-
So there was 2 separate incidents where I got locked up.
Gotcha.
So the first time was when I ran in the Lincoln Navigator.
Mm-hmm.
I had 10 pounds of weed in a briefcase in the back and a gun on my waist.
Gotcha.
My buddy who was with me was on the run from the work release. He's the one who got
He's
away.
got to get away. He's got to get away, right?
When we took off, I immediately took the gun out of my waist, gave it to him. I'm like, yo, get rid of shit, hit all the windows. Only, like I said, it was only 3 streets up, a left, and it's a dead end behind a church. So we get out. I'm thinking he threw everything out the window, whatever. I'm hoping we got away. So as they pull me out of the woods finally, by the time I get out there, like I said, it was so surreal, like some movie shit. Like there's like 12 cop cars. They got
like
the K9s
dogs
out.
and, like,
They're
helicopters
talking
and
about calling the helicopter to come out.
shit.
Like, so I'm in the back of the cop car, and this is when, like I said, that moment where it's just like, I fucked up. Oh, shit.
Shit that happened.
Damn. All right, maybe I shouldn't have done it. Maybe.
Yeah.
All right, can we just rewind just a day?
Oh, man.
So I'm sitting back there, and the cop comes back up and opens the back door, and he goes, "So, what's in the briefcase?" And I'm like, "I don't know, no clue.
what
Don't even
briefcase?
know what you're talking about.
Briefcase?
No idea. Yeah, no clue."
What's a briefcase?
So he's like, "Okay." Closes the door, comes back like 2 minutes later. So whose gun is that?
right.
I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. So the second time, this is after
You're like
we had
briefcase and
watched
gun. What am I,
13 months,
James
they told
Bond,
me-
dude? Come on, get out of here with this shit. Like this guy's out of his mind.
So long story short on that one, that was my first case. My lawyer basically puts in a motion to suppress the evidence because with weed, it's not that much time.
Yeah.
Regardless of what people think, if it's your first offense, up to 99 pounds of weed. I haven't been in the law library in a minute, so don't quote me. But back then when I was studying because I was locked up, you could get, for your first offense, you can get caught with up to 99 pounds of weed and only get a year.
No.
I think everybody that goes into prison, you become a lawyer, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, you,
Oh,
I mean,
I've-
you can
yeah,
tell,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
You start
Trust
using
me,
the
I-
acronyms. You
So-
start throwing out the.
Now, when I got caught because the weed and the gun were in the same vicinity in
becomes a
Pennsylvania,
vicinity,
they complicate.
that's a legal term.
They complicate each other to a mandatory 5 to 10 year sentence.
Oh, shit.
So that's what I was facing. My lawyer put in a legal search and seizure because the car was paid off. It was in my mom's name. They scared her into signing a search warrant. After that, they popped open a briefcase. His defense was it's a legal search and seizure because she can't give consent to search his property. It was his own locked property.
Right.
He cited some federal case that was like where they did the same thing. They got a search warrant for some yacht and then they opened some luggage that was locked,
Right.
and it wasn't the person whose yacht that they got. So
Yeah.
it was a bunch of kilos of coke, and it got thrown out.
Right.
So
Because
did
illegal
you think
search
you were
and
gonna
seizure.
get out?
So I'm like, let's go, let's go.
Bank error in your favor.
So for that one, I get only a 1 to 2. I get out after a year. I didn't learn my lesson. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I was making. I wasn't even making that decent money then, but my boy who got away and didn't get caught. As soon as I came home, was like, here's 100 grams of coke.
Like the
Get
system
on your
right in
feet.
there.
We don't need anything. I don't need anything back, but just let me know when you need more.
Okay.
And that's when it just-
man.
See, that's what they say. The recidivism rate, like the rate of like coming back into the system,
It's high.
80% in your first year,
Yeah.
like coming out of that, and then as you separate to
Yep.
like 3 years, then it drops. Like,
So that time I was.
Was there a thought of no at all? Was there any reprehend? Was it kind of
Here's the thing: when I was for the year I was locked up that time, my grandfather, it's my grandmother's second husband, so not my biological, but whatever.
yeah.
So he had died when I was away. When I came home, my mom was already living. We were already living with my grandma. I'm like, I already had guilt because my grandfather basically gave her the ultimatum, like either they go or I go, because their whole marriage, like my mom and was always we were getting evicted. Always was the fallback of moving in with grandma.
okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
He was sick of it because he's just an older guy, like looking to just enjoy marriage.
Right.
At that age, I didn't think of all that. You know what I mean? Like now that I'm 40, like yeah,
He
I
wants
see,
to
I
walk
understand.
around naked.
Yeah,
and have
exactly.
sex.
Like,
Swinging, like,
he's not trying to deal with our young asses
yeah.
getting
He
into
wants the free
trouble.
ball.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
so
you should have been dealing Viagra?
So when I first came home, they were already struggling. And it's not like I have, like I'm, a 22-year-old,
Penn grad who's about to go
like
down there.
felon now,
Yeah.
on parole, on state parole. Like I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
So I was just like, all right,
Well,
I need
and
to
what
find
can
a way
you
to
get?
get.
Like, because now if you try to go get a typical job now, you got to check off that
gotta hit
box
that
that
box,
says I've
right?
been,
Yeah.
and now you're limited, right? Like,
Oh,
what's
it's-
the typical job? Like, what do they throw at you to do when you get out? It's like Brooks from Shawshank, like
Brooks.
stuffing groceries as a
Yeah.
70-year-old man.
Well, that's the thing is like there's, I mean, and a lot of people will tell you, and there's different Google searches you can do. There are a lot of companies that hire felons.
Yeah, they get a tax break. I know that.
But
from
now,
my
but now
previous
you're
career.
around because then, like, I got to imagine at some point you're saying to yourself, like, "Oh, I got to check who I'm around. Like, maybe don't call my boy when I get
Fuck
out,
yeah.
so
Oh,
that
yeah.
I'm not in
You
that."
gotta
Right?
do
There
it.
had to have
Oh,
been
yeah,
times when
there's-
you're like, "I'm not going to go out and do X, Y,
It's
and
still
Z."
to this day, like I still struggle financially to this day. So it's hard to this day,
Yeah.
knowing that I can make a few phone calls
And you could be,
and in a
you could be
week
free, right?
I can
No, you-
have all financial shit.
Wow.
But
taken
even
care of.
like how you entertain yourself is now different. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like
yeah.
you can't like certain things. I would imagine
Yeah.
you're trying to put yourself not in certain scenarios.
Oh yeah,
or
there, well
certain
there was
situations.
for certain times, like especially when I first came home, because that's like first thing on your mind is like after I did, the longer stay, it was really on my mind of because I made a promise to my daughter at that point. When you're away by Pittsburgh and you only see your daughter 3 times in 4 years, that weighs on you. Like that time I learned my lesson. I made a promise to her while I was in there, I will never go back. And I can't break a promise to my daughter. So when I came home, it was like I was very like people think it's cool, like it's just whatever. Like you drink and get behind the wheel. Oh, I get a DUI, I might get a fine or what.
yeah.
For me, I get a DUI. At that point, I'm going away for probably 3 to 5 years.
You forget to feed the meter.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
like, you know what I
Jaywalking
mean?
will
Like-
get you fucked up. At
Yeah.
that
So
point,
and that's
yeah.
why I was always very conscious about like not going around certain crowds, staying away from like spots where young people are drinking.
That's
like
hard.
Right, because
Yeah.
if you come over, like let's say you came over and we were watching UFC, having a good time drinking, and then someone pulls out a little bit of Coke or something and puts it on the table, you got to get up and leave. Or like you can't
I mean, you don't have to, but you could know that your ass is getting.
You're exposing
know
yourself,
what
right?
you're. Yeah,
Yeah.
You know what you're putting at risk.
So let me ask you this: you had mentioned you made a promise to your daughter.
Yeah.
All right. So this was in person. This was
This was at one of our visits. And
at one of the visits in the
still
facility.
after I came home.
And she looks at you and she's like, "Daddy, why are we here?" Or you just said, "Listen, I'm going to make a promise to you right now because you got to know that Daddy fucked up and I won't do it again."
No, what was it? It was a long string of just letters back and forth and stuff like that, to where she understood that Dad, messed up.
Yeah.
But she also had a little bit of hood in her from being Daddy's daughter.
Right.
Like, I remember because they hit my house with a search warrant and she was there.
Oh,
And
wow.
they tore the place up. They dumped cereal out of boxes. Everything out of the kitchen.
While
kit.
you were upstairs.
So no, when I got this, so when they pulled me over the same day they arrested me, right after they
were
arrested me, they
also-
went to my house and hit it because they had a search warrant for my house.
So let me ask you. So on the scale from 1 to 10, when they go and they search your house and your daughter is watching police or agents, whatever, do scale of 1 to how much guilt do you feel? Like what is? What
Well,
is
that time I didn't even know. I wasn't sure because I was being locked up.
So you.
I just, when I got my first phone call home, when I was finally, taken to the county jail and got that first phone call, that's when I hear my grandma telling me what happened, and then my daughter's there, and my daughter, God bless her, she gets on the phone, and she's, I forget, like 3 or 4, maybe 3, I don't know. And she's like, Dad, the police came and messed everything up. Are they just mad at you because they had to do their job and they're lazy? And at that point, I'm like, yeah, baby,
right.
good, that's good parenting. Now I'm like, oh, stop.
They took my toy from the cereal box.
Oh my God. Yeah, he took it with him.
They said they were afraid it had Daddy's toys in there.
So it was. I mean, it's honestly, it's a blessing to laugh about it now because
Well, and how long is so now? So you made that promise to her? You've kept the promise, right? How long
I've
we
been
talking
home
now?
12 years now.
Dude, how
Over-
about it? That's
over
that's
12
great.
years.
Yeah, hell
We're
yeah.
glad for
That's-
that. We'll golf clap that.
Dude,
one.
that's an important, because that's the whenever we have things in our life, we have to own up to and make promises, and I think that's a great motivator. I know for myself, the same with my daughters. I want to, no matter what, I want to know if I've done something wrong. I want to be able to say that to them, and I want to be able to make sure that I can
Fulfill that. You got to be real with that shit.
Yeah.
They're fucking kids. You're still their superhero. Like
You're
I'm
setting,
sure.
plus you're setting an example.
Yeah.
You have to lead by example.
Right.
It's just like any a father is just like any other leader. Like you have to lead by example. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't be. They will pick up on it if you're a phony.
Oh, they'll know if you're full of shit and
Yep.
you say. Yeah, remember they used to say, "Do what I say, not what I do."
Yeah.
Don't ever say that to your fucking kid because they're gonna do what you do.
Yeah.
They're gonna follow everything that you fucking do.
Well,
So-
sometimes I've said some stuff to my daughter, like, well, she'll be like, "Oh, well, you can do this." I'm like, "Well, yeah, I'm a 39-year-old
Yeah.
man who's lived his life at this point and didn't have to do this." Like, so there's certain things that I said, "Do you go to a job and pay the mortgage?" No, you get that luxury right now. I don't. So there are some differences, but you're right. To your point, I mean, like at certain points, it's like you got to expect the same from them.
Like one thing I know is like the friends I have and the people I grew up with, the ones that all have bad habits right now,
Yeah.
and most of, I mean, drugs, alcohol, like stuff like that. They watched their parents do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They didn't
100%.
like live in this household where it was just totally sheltered, and then they went off to college. And now most of them watched their parents do and struggle with the same shit,
Yeah.
and now they're doing it. So they are going to do what you do because you make it normal.
Now there's like I mean I still take pride in a lot of my parenting because even now to this day, my daughter's 19. She was just telling me a story last night, and literally like in the story, didn't say the word shit. She said S word.
Okay,
She's 19.
yeah,
you could say
You know
shit.
what I mean? Like there's I'm not saying like I'm the best dad in the world, but I'm just saying like that right there was like kind of made me proud. Like at least she knows like I instilled in her that respect.
Yeah,
You
when
know
even
what I
the
mean?
example,
Like-
even if it's a non-example, it's an example like of, like, oh, I don't want to this. Because sometimes that's what we teach them. We teach them how not, even if we do a bad habit, we're teaching them something by our example
Good
to
or
not
bad.
do that.
Yeah.
So like for me, like I see my daughter like twice a week, but she's at that age like where she's growing. Like I'll see her in 7 days and I'll be like, oh my God, you're bigger.
Yeah.
Tell me what that's
Yeah.
like. You don't see your daughter like 3 times in 5 years. I mean, you went in there and it was like goo goo gaga, and then you got out and it was like, yo, Dad, what's
Were
up?
you getting photos?
Right?
Were you getting photos the other end? Were they able to send you stuff?
Yeah. I was getting decent amount of letters and pictures.
Cakes
And
with
that-
files, all that.
That's like, getting letters and photos in prison that's like Christmas morning.
Oh,
for real.
yeah.
That's like, because you're locked in there, like you have nothing. That's your. Now, like I said, you see on the TV shows, like they have
Got the
tablets, they have JPay to email and all that
Yeah.
stuff. We didn't no, it was just visits and letters and photos, and that was it.
Wow.
And
And you read that letter 6
JPay,
times an hour.
that's
right?
You
jail
just
pay, right?
constantly-
You have to have like money in your account. Is that what
Yeah, well, JPay now they do. Back when I was locked up, that was just to send inmates money.
But,
now
yeah.
there's like a whole email and like I think some other type
It's
of.
become a racket, actually.
yeah.
No joke. It's kind of very, look into it. It looks like an awful,
Because
but it's become
then
its
you
own
can
thing.
be giving favor, like, can you
Because it's its own company that they're making money off of the prisoners and the families
Oh,
in
because
order
it's
for
appropriate
them to
every
feel
time you
that.
put something through.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's messed up. Anyway,
It's like school pay. It's how I pay for my daughter's lunches. It's
Yeah.
the same system, I think. No.
Same company owns them both.
same company.
But yeah, so
it
you
was
like get that.
Not only that, dude. When I first now once again, this is older, not the same system now. Graterford is even closed. So when I first went up, you had to go I was in Bucks County in the county jail. Then you had to go to Graterford when you were going upstate. They had to pre-classify you. Then from Graterford you go to Camp Hill. Camp Hill is where they classify you, give you whatever grade you are, and then send you to whatever your home jail is. And that would be the prison you're doing your time at. In Pennsylvania, back then there was over 20 state prisons. I don't know how many there are now. But at that point, when you went through Graterford, you weren't allowed visits, you weren't allowed phone calls, you weren't allowed anything. So all your communication, you weren't getting letters and stuff during your time there. And I was there for like a month. And it was also, you're locked down 23/1, 23 hours in a cell.
Damn.
And
1 hour
I was
wrap.
there in the middle of August, and there's no AC
How to
at
shit.
Graterford. So literally, you get 3 pairs of boxers, 3 t-shirts, 3 pairs of socks. I washed every single day in the sink with State Bar soap because I sweat through my clothes
Yeah.
constantly.
Oh my gosh.
So,
So you
it was
just
that
didn't
was a
help. You
rough
just didn't help.
stop. It was a rough stop. Then, now on top of that, you didn't get a razor or anything. And I got a haircut 2 days ago and then shaved yesterday because it grows in so fast.
Yeah.
So by the time last time my daughter saw me when I was in the county to the first visit, because then when you get to Camp Hill, it's not like you just get a visit. You have to put in a visitor list. They have to approve it. It's on their time. So you're talking about like 3 months where I didn't see her. Now she comes my first visit at Camp Hill,
Who the
and
fuck is
she's
this
young.
guy?
I go walking up like, hey, and she's like, doesn't recognize
Who
me,
the fuck
starts
are you?
crying.
Yeah. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, it's daddy.
And dude, that right there
That's
was
gotta
one of
be
the
like twist the
heartbreaking
blade,
moments
yeah.
of like my own daughter is crying when I'm going up to her, and I'm so joyed because I haven't seen her in 3 months. She doesn't even recognize me.
Wow.
And then like after a little while, she started like touching my beard and like realizing it was me, and then warmed up, and then. But dude, that'll stick in my memory forever.
Oh, I bet.
You know what I
That's
mean?
intense.
You're not a crier, are you?
No.
No. So you were never like fighting back tears.
A time in there, yeah.
I would think
definitely.
even that
Like,
would
'cause
bring someone to.
I think
there's
you
certain
would.
like my grandmom and my daughters are the two that'll
That'll
get
open you up,
'em-
open
that'll
you up
hit
a
that
little
yeah,
bit.
spot.
everybody's.
Oh
Yeah, I
my
feel like
gosh.
everybody's got that spot.
Yeah.
Everyone's got one. Yeah.
I feel like it's like my nephew, my wife's older half sister married a guy, had a baby with him, and he was almost like they got married, had the kid. I remember meeting him at the hospital when they had my nephew, and then he had already had a record prior to that. Well, he went back in, and like it was a pretty big deal. And he was in for a couple years, got out, then had he just had some issues, and so then he got back out, had another incident where something happened at the house that the SWAT team had to get sent.
Oh my God.
Then he goes back and it just and then he was out. He's just back and forth. That recidiv, that's
Yeah.
and so it's now I'm looking at my nephew who's like 10, and I'm just like, wow, like it must be so hard on him because his dad's not doing those things. I don't think he knows how, and I don't think it's within him
Yeah.
to do that. And I feel so bad for the people who fall to the system who aren't in a position like you to really pick themselves up by their bootstraps, because I think the mental health and some of those other things, and I'm sure you met some of those guys in there, you know what I mean? Like, because that we even talked on a previous episode, he had like tattoos that were like tattoos that you shouldn't have about certain things that you don't want to talk
On
about
the outside,
anymore.
and the inside, it makes you a king.
But
On
it
the
was
outside,
getting
makes
him
you a
in
piece of
trouble.
shit.
He was getting in more fights because if he was out
Oh,
and they
I was
were
like,
like
what's that
racist
mean?
tattoos, and now he's in a
Oh.
block with people of different race, Puerto Ricans,
Yeah.
blacks, whoever,
Yeah.
and now they're seeing those tattoos. That he had a guy that like beat him within an inch with a cane, an old guy
Really?
that was just like wasn't having it. He's
Wow.
like, so it's like he's made a lot of decisions in his life that can't go away. There's certain things that he's gonna have
with the
to, and that's so hard for those people. So it's so nice to hear a story where, like, that your daughters have this opportunity now to have this relationship with you. And what about your younger now? Let's talk about that. So because she wasn't even around for this whole period, so now
But
do
every-
you feel like she
yeah.
sees you differently, or how do you feel like your
and do they
relationship?
both know the story? Correct.
Well, my youngest doesn't know the
She's
story.
only like
she's
6 now.
Oh, okay.
so-
So
Yeah,
it's gonna
but
be-
she literally, this happened 2 weeks ago, where she was just like, because she's at that point where it's just like they know too much and they're too damn smart.
and they'll see,
And
they're
like
gonna
some
say
of the
it, they're
shit that
gonna
comes
say
out
it.
of her mouth, you're just like, how do you even know the definition of that? Like, let alone
Yeah.
So I'm in the bank drive-through, and she's in the back, and she goes, "Dad, were you ever in jail?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Why?" She's like, "Oh, okay. Because I asked mommy if she was ever in jail, and she said no, but she said you were a lot of times or something."
A lot of
and I was like,
times.
"Well, for a lot of time, but not a lot of times." But yeah,
right.
same thing, whatever. Tomato. But it's like talking to a 6-year-old. It's like I'm not gonna sit here and try to explain.
Well, it's like anything. Talking about death, talking about, like
Oh,
you,
yeah.
you find ways to say it without having to, because then you can't unsay stuff. Like Louis C.K. and has like some bits about that. Like, you can't change their whole universe or say, like, that's why we have some of those things where we have a tooth fairy. We have, like, we do these
Yeah,
things as
soften
parents
things
where
up.
we tell them what they can hear. You have to rate it. Like, you
Yeah.
can't be like giving her an R-rated like answer when she's in a G
6 years
sort
old,
of
yeah, yeah.
PG.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to
rating.
give too much or go into too much, but it's also like
You don't wanna lie either.
Yeah, exactly. You have to be honest because you want to
can't be
build.
lying. I don't
Like
think you should lie.
that's one thing. Like I know I've built a good relationship with my daughters because they can talk to. Like my oldest daughter talks to me about her boy problems, about like things that you would think a 19-year-old daughter wouldn't come to her dad to talk to
Yeah.
about. We have those conversations,
awesome.
and
That's
that's what
beautiful.
that's one of the greatest things and greatest feelings in the world. Sometimes it's like, yo, can't you find a friend to talk to about this shit?
And, yeah,
But
and imagine
there,
if
there
you-
are some where I'm like, yo, really?
Be
Like, I
careful
don't-
what you ask for. Yeah, you're right. We were talking
But
about that on too. Like,
it's-
did you ever go through her stuff, like journals, text messages?
Oh yeah. Well, see, I had the whole you got to scroll back, but through some of her high school groundings, I took over her Instagram to
Oh, wow.
hashtag dad takeover. Like on her Instagram page, I'm posting my selfies at the barbershop.
Nice.
This is
Very
what
nice.
happens when you don't get good grades.
Oh,
and
my God.
like the one I posted, like feeling cute, might ground Kayla later on her own page. Like, yeah.
That's good. That's
oh
good.
my God, that is
Yeah.
so
You know,
good.
I was thinking about that because it's so funny you brought that back up because people get upset like when you discipline and do things like give a kid a shitty haircut to discipline.
yeah.
I don't think that's the worst thing. I don't think you should be hitting your kids, right?
Yeah,
Like when we were
exactly.
younger, you just get
Got the
like
shit
you
kicked out of
fucking
us.
hit. People are hitting you. I don't think you should be hitting your kids. So I think being creative and finding other ways to instill. I don't think it's a bad thing.
It's hard because I think the devil's advocate of that side, well, like the other people would say, that would be like, well, you're trading physical trauma for mental trauma. But I think there's a taste. As long as it's being thoughtful and you're expressing to them why this is happening in the way. And I think some of yours is just fun. Like that's just
That's just fun. Yeah, ain't nothing wrong
like
with
that's
that one
like,
at all.
hey,
That's-
dad's gonna tag you on TikTok. That's gonna be your punishment. That's like, oh, you gotta kiss me in the school drop-off line and
Yeah.
say goodbye.
Yeah.
But like I think that some of that's playful and then they know it's coming from a place of love.
Yeah.
And it's like a good buddy giving you a noogie or an uncle like teasing you. Like it's those things like when we talked about the episode with Lamar and we were talking about bullying being part of the ecosystem. There's a checks and balances to family and friends where you need that because you can't have a yes man.
Yeah.
Your parents
No,
shouldn't be
you're-
yes
you're a
people.
parent.
There
You're
should
not-
be
you're
a
not a
little bit
friend.
of checks in that system. I think that's important.
I also think some of the punishment aspect should be mental, because in this day and age, especially, you have to be mentally tough. Like I learned that
And
going
I was
through
going
what
to
I
say,
went
if
through.
anybody knows
Right,
about
You have
that,
that's I told everyone, like, going through, everyone's like, oh, you know, prison, you fights and people stabbing or shanks, and this physical was, I mean, maybe because I'm a bigger dude and I can fight a little bit, it wasn't a big worry of mine, but the mental aspect is, if you can, you don't know how many dudes I seen in there that were just losing their shit because
They broke them.
they don't know what their girls out here doing in the
Oh, my
streets.
God, I can
Or like
imagine.
so many of them are, that's what it is. I came to the realization real quick, like, I'm away, Jody's taking care of business. I know what's going on. I'm not going to pretend like I'm coming home and getting married. I know,
but
like,
the people you're meeting in there that are losing it like that, they're the users, I would imagine, of a lot of the drugs. That
not only, it's because it's mental.
Well, that's what I mean. But like, these are people who,
He's
by
saying they're, like,
nature,
mentally compromised because
but
maybe
yeah,
they're-
because they're used to escaping their reality through drugs, and now all of a sudden that's taken
Oh, I
away.
get what you're- okay.
And
They're in their
now
own
they
head.
have to cope.
They have
and
to
they
talk
have
to
learn,
themselves. They can't
and
mask it
and
with a little bit of something, yeah.
That would have been the moment when they would have just said, "No, I'm not dealing with this right
Yeah,
now.
let me go get high.
I'm gonna go numb myself."
oh.
And now all of a sudden you can't do that. But you can. I mean, you can find ways in there if there's a necessity is the mother of ingenuity. At that point,
Yeah.
like. So it's like you can still escape that, but you get to learn about yourself and and whether you can do that. So like now you've been out, you've done this great stuff. But there had to. I know you were telling us about a moment earlier where you went out when you got back, and it got. I think that was funny. We didn't get to talk. I mean, we talked a little bit, but we didn't get to talk about that on air. Like, so you've been trying to keep yourself out of the fray, and you had a crazy situation. What was it, like a bachelor
Yeah,
party?
it was.
or-
So my ex, it was my ex-wife's cousin had a bachelorette party together, which I already knew was
That's
one.
bad.
Strike
yeah.
one.
It's already like, okay, this
Yeah.
is set
Don't
up
do
for
that. If you're
getting
watching
in
at home,
bed.
don't do that shit,
No,
okay?
no
You go there, we
bachelor
go there.
parties
Don't do
together.
that anymore.
Don't.
Yes.
Don't. So it was already like iffy from the beginning, and at that point, like I said, I wasn't going.
How long had you been out at this point?
A year.
Oh, so you're in that
you're brand
age.
new. You're
So
brand
that's,
out.
ooh,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
So that's
Year,
dangerous.
year and a
Did you
half.
think to not go at one point?
I thought about it, but then I thought like I was surrounded because she had a good family.
Okay, so
So
you
I
felt
had
like
a
it was
good
safe.
surrounding.
Like, this would be
I
a
was
good-
like, if I feel like it's like,
These aren't people who you
me in
had.
trouble.
had
these
been
aren't
in
people
trouble.
that are going to get into a fight and then I'm
then
going to
turn
have
to
to
you
go
and be
fuck
like, hey,
someone
come
up.
help me out.
These
Like,
are people who know how to
Yes,
go out, and this might be
exactly.
for you a way to see what that would be
Okay,
like. Okay,
okay.
cool.
So
There
it
you
was,
go.
but I mean, I was still weary because they were going to Kavanaugh's River Deck down in Delaware Ave.
Second.
So I'm like,
don't do that
exactly.
either. All right?
Strike
don't
two.
do that anymore.
Yeah. So
For people outside, there should be context. You're just asking for a fights and drunk situations at Kavanaugh. Like, yeah,
it's like, yeah,
if you don't
exactly.
know,
Like, yeah.
you're asking for drama.
Yeah,
when you go
imagine
to
whatever
Kavanaugh.
is in your area that when people go
Right.
there, nothing good comes of it.
County bar situation.
But my plan was I stay within my group.
Right.
Stay within my group. We're just getting drunk and having fun.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't have
We're
to worry
celebrating.
about
You're
all
celebrating.
Well, the staying in the group part, I stuck to, but it didn't work. I hear the girls keep talking about some dude that's going up hitting on the bride to be.
Okay.
And I know that's her cousin, and I know the dude she's marrying is just some short Jewish dude who's not intimidating at all. And they told this guy like that, and I hear him gossiping, like talking, like we told him that she's getting married and that she's here on her bachelorette party, blah blah blah. So the first time I let it go, and I didn't say anything, I just heard it. Second time I'm up buying a round of drinks, and I hear him talking about it again. He just went up and grabbed her to try and dance with her and blah. And I'm one also who doesn't like, not bullying, but just when people that like this dude wouldn't have done that
Yeah,
if that was
absolutely.
my girl.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
You know what I mean?
I know what you're
So
talking
don't
about.
pick
Yeah,
on
it's
someone just because they're smaller
Yeah,
or
yeah.
weaker.
Taking
or,
advantage.
Yeah, don't
Yeah.
like stop. You're not. So I just beelined and found the dude that they were talking about, grabbed him by the neck, and before I know it, there's 3 security guards on my back. They are on my back. We're both on the ground. I still got this dude's neck. One of them has like my arm just trying to rip, and they're just like pulling his head back and forth. And I'm literally just trying to talk to them while I'm trying to stand up at the same time. Like, you don't understand. He's the asshole, not me. Get him. And
He's like, yeah, you already got him.
so they finally like pry my fingers off his throat. They get him up. They get me up, and I tell them what happened. And luckily, they were cool. They let us stay. They kicked him out. We ended up leaving right after that anyway, because everyone was like. Of course, because it was me. Everyone's like, "Oh my God, no, we can't get him locked back up. Get back on the bus."
Now, had you been there with your boys, and that was one of their situation, that might not have ended.
Yeah.
So you're right, because the whole point of having the bachelor and bachelorette thing together, bad idea.
It never fucking goes well.
I did one in Philly years ago. I ran into an old childhood friend who was from Scranton. Ends up being a cop down here, which blew my mind because he was.
Now, when you say old child, like you're tight with this guy, or you went to school together?
His grandmother was our 6th grade teacher.
Okay,
like we were like from 3rd grade on, bowling parties.
Okay, so he's
really tight, but we lost each other for college period, whatever.
Yeah.
We find each other because we're both down in this area, met up in like King of Prussia, and then he invited me to his bachelor party, and I was like, oh, it's a cool moment to re-enter my friend's life as an adult, and so we did this bachelor party. We got the 2 buses. They went to their thing, we went to our thing, and at some point they talked and said, oh, we should meet up. Now, I don't think it was there, but it was another place, and the girls are dancing on the bar, and so now this guy is like getting handsy with the bridesmaid, and then my buddy and his friends who are all cops, they go up and the guy sucker punches my buddy right in front of me.
The guy get married?
The guy who was being the pervert, like sucker punches my buddy who's a cop, and then I like grab his arm because he's going for a second punch. I grab his arm. As I grab his arm, 2 guys grab me from behind at my size and threw me like a rag doll up against the wall, and next thing you know, we're all outside.
Those are bouncers,
and then my buddy's like trying to tell him he's a cop and all of that because he's our other. At this point, the police are there, and even luckily it all we all went our separate ways, and because he was a cop, things were okay too there because we didn't. But like, it's amazing how. It's almost the same scenario. You involve drinking, you involve people like that, and then there's somebody looking to start trouble. That's a recipe, even if you've not been in that scenario, that can lead to a fight.
Do you currently drink? Do you drink like?
Once in a while. I drank last night. I'm feeling it today. but
you're not like a drinker.
No, rarely. Like I'll drink here and there, but it's rare.
Do you think your daughter drinks?
Does my daughter drink?
Sure.
No. Not. I
Which is
mean,
19. You know what I mean? Like,
that's a good question.
No, I know she. Like, I smoke. I have my medical card. I've had 2 nerve surgeries in the past 3 years.
It's funny how in Pennsylvania we still have to justify that, whereas like everywhere else, it's like we are recreationally.
But she's been upfront with me that she smokes, and
okay.
I'll never be one of those parents that like, oh, smoke with my kid because I just can't get to that.
I mean, at that point,
lines, you're becoming a friend.
Exactly,
you're becoming too much of a friend. Like.
But I also don't put up with it under my roof. But I know she does. I tell her to be responsible, and
the only thing would be, is it going to hurt her getting a job down the line? Probably the only thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like as long as At
And
least it doesn't stay in your system like a lot of others. But
That's whenever you add alcohol to the equation, you're gonna get a fucking fight. I mean,
that's just
alcohol. Younger people, you got all that testosterone going, jealousy from the females.
You're gonna get.
It's a recipe for disaster.
I mean, I gotta imagine that's a lot of stress for your friends too, because it's like of all of us that get in trouble, you're the one we don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah.
But you're also maybe the hottest head, right? And at that time, the most aggressive. And they're like, "Fuck!" Imagine if you had your bachelorette party and your boy got locked up again because of your fucking bachelorette party. That's got to be a fucked up wedding. Right?
Yeah. It's crazy. It's kind of your whole party has a felony, kind of in a way. You guys got to watch the fuck out.
Accomplices is what
Don't mess up.
Are you taking notes for your? Because this guy's going to be popping the question soon, right? Getting married.
No, I am getting married.
You're getting married.
Yeah.
You are. So
I don't even know if I'm having a bachelor party. I don't know.
Well, because now you're learning.
I'm learning.
What we're doing, we're having a Kavanaugh's.
Drew's coming.
So fast forward now, because I think to that point, like you have to learn how to live and enjoy your life and do it in a different way. And I think that's a perfect segue into like what Comedy on the Crick is. It's like you get to be a party host and bring a moment where you're bringing people together to laugh and enjoy life. And like you said, now to be able to laugh about stuff I think we all realize that after the last couple of years. So now, talk to us how that got started. So, at what point does comedy on the Crick become a thing?
It was honestly by accident.
All the good things are
Honestly,
not on
it
purpose.
is honestly like as you mentioned before with the record I have, it's tough finding corporate jobs.
Yeah.
I've interviewed with some like big investor companies because that's the path I was going to go down, like doing insurance and some other stuff. And two of the biggest, like literally the directors said they would hire me without a doubt, but corporate wouldn't allow it. So it was when I first came home, I just started doing phone sales for a company because it was commission only and they don't give a shit about your record. If you can sell, you make us money. That's all.
Yep, they don't give a fuck.
So I started with that company and I was there 3 years doing good on commission only phone sales. Wow. Found out the third year that my boss was ripping me off. He was telling me companies closed their accounts and was keeping the commissions and was paying me like 3 months later after companies paid their bills and stuff like that. So instead of, old me losing my shit and grabbing him by the neck.
right.
I was smart. I kept watching how everything was run, and I started doing my own business, doing the exact same thing for myself.
Oh, no shit.
I had that business called Shop Supplies Unlimited for almost 9 years, and that's how I paid my bills.
Oh, yeah.
When the pandemic hit, crippled my business because my business was I sold shop and safety supplies to other businesses across the country.
Was backed up.
Everyone shut down. When they finally slowly opened back up, they're so price conscious about everything.
Because, they were just
everyone's budget is nothing, and I can't compete with big box store prices.
Nope.
So I
Dunder Mifflin
literally was done nothing. So at that time, me and old friend of mine, Anthony, we had a podcast, and he was a wannabe stand-up comedian. He's one of those that like went to 2 open mics and called himself a comedian.
Yeah, now he wants to go to the Apollo, right?
Yeah.
Now he's ready.
So we went to an old like drinking spot that he constantly frequent and talked to the owner and asked if we could host an open mic as our podcast. So it was, Triggered Radio presents comedy open mic night at Tap Sports Bar.
Okay.
The very first open mic we had there, I think 3 comedians showed up. We pulled one person out of the audience.
Nice.
And that's about 20 minutes of a 2-hour window we had to fill.
Oh, shit.
So the rest of the time, me and him had to sit up there with microphones and basically just like entertain the audience, do a live podcast, whatever. Right. After that, I was like, this is never happening again. So I went on a mass, and anyone on social media that had a microphone in their profile picture, that had comedian on their profile, I just spammed. Yo, come to our mic, come to our open mic. And at that time, because of the pandemic, this was September 2020.
Oh, wow,
Yeah. So we were outside on the sidewalk. Neil knows. And that's when, by the second week, I had 20 comedians there. By the third, same thing, like 20, 24, and then it just grew. So then I was out to eat one day at Water's Edge in Bensalem, and the place is beautiful.
Yes.
It's a beautiful venue.
Yes, very nice.
So while I'm there, I'm like, my usual, I'm not afraid. One thing I will never have is fear of rejection. It got me a lot of success.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah.
So I'm there. While I'm there eating lunch, I said, yeah, is the owner in? Can I talk to the owner? They were like, no, he's not in. So I leave my, information, tell him I'm looking for a new spot for a comedy show. I get a call, go have a sit down with him 2 days later. Boom, we got our show. I come up with the name Comedy on the Crick because we're right on the Chamonix Creek.
There you go.
And we're ready to go. We sold out. We were doing through the pandemic, 100 people sold out shows every week.
I remember
and we
being
had,
in that room.
it was literally it was a show that was like an organized mic.
It was.
It was
I think you were
20
doing
comedians.
5-minute spots, right?
20 comedians, 5-minute spots, intermission at 10. Yeah. And because the room we were at, we weren't in the main area. We were at a different little house that was
a tentish, right?
It was because of COVID, it was regulated as outside. The back wall along the Crick was a half wall. and they just had like some Dexter style shower curtains
Yeah,
that
that's what it
stapled
was,
there,
that's right.
and then they had propane heaters
we were all
inside
definitely getting
because
sick,
there's no
right?
running water. They're bringing down everything from the main restaurant bar area. So yeah, it was.
The fumes. I remember the fumes.
Yeah,
Ooh,
well,
I
there
gotta
was
go
a couple
outside.
shows where people were
It was
talking
over
about.
top of a pool.
Yeah, they,
was the old
they
pool
boxed
house.
in. Yeah, it was that's
yeah.
what they called a pool house because it was above
Yeah.
ground pool in
Yeah.
there.
Oh my
They
God.
actually like boxed over, like went over, put the floor over, and boxed in the
Yeah.
pool and made it like for us to be able to have shows in there. Actually, the first Neil was so the first 2 shows that we had, the room wasn't done yet, so they had us in this old cabin, like
Benjamin Franklin stayed there.
yeah, exactly, yeah. But dude,
old
not only that, it wasn't big enough for
No.
the numbers that we were doing,
wasn't. It was packed.
and they just lined. And this is like you're talking the end of 2020, so it's
Yeah.
right in the height. Super spreader is
Yeah.
what we were called every time.
Yeah, oh, totally.
They just had rows of rectangle tables with chairs right next to each other. Like I'm talking about closer to me and Al right now.
Yeah.
Right next to each
They
other.
were doing that in schools. They were like, "Oh, well, now it's 3 feet, and oh, well, this room can't do 6
Yeah.
feet." Like
Yeah.
everybody was making those because the goal line, the goalposts were constantly.
Oh, that was just
We're doing a show at the Buck Hotel March 10th. This is our second one there. Both have sold out. 250 people almost 2 weeks in
Well,
advance.
that's just it.
both
Because
of
like my
them.
wife and I were big into like going out for comedy because now we talked earlier. You got to hire a babysitter. Like you know, this is a night out.
Yeah.
yeah.
So you're wanting to create a full experience, not just hey, a couple guys are gonna tell jokes, but
Yeah.
you want to make sure that the drinks that they're drinking, they're having a good time with, they're eating good food, and they're being entertained because this is their night.
yeah, that's what we were saying. What entertainment is left? You got movies,
Yeah.
escape room,
Yeah.
axe throwing. What?
Yeah.
Dinner. What is left?
Yeah,
you know,
at
unless
the
you
right
just wanna
comedy
be-
show, you can see all of those things. It's like, but no, but I think like there isn't
Yeah,
much left,
right?
And, like,
Or just
it's a
going
pr-
and standing at a bar. How
But
many
it's an
times have
all
you done
inclusive.
that?
That's an
That's
all
the beauty.
inclusive
That's why
night
it's crushing.
out.
Yeah.
that has everything. So I think the fact that you're putting thought into not just the comedians and all of that, but also into creating an experience for those people. Now you're probably seeing it. Now when you start a show and you say to people how many people have been here before,
Oh yeah, there's tons.
it's a difference, right?
I've had the last show we did at Maggie's. There was a couple there, and I'll never forget because they were a church group when they came to their first show, literally a church group, and they just came to I think their 8th show in a year.
Yeah.
8th show in a year.
awesome.
You know what I mean? Like that's
it.
they're not just the only ones.
No,
Like,
yeah,
there's
they're
a
not
lot.
the
We have a
exception.
lot of
Yeah.
customers that have been to 5, 6, 7, 8 shows in the past year
right.
and constantly
they know they're gonna get a
and
good
it's
meal,
because
or-
I always and what my goal has been with Comedy on the Crick has just been I don't care if you know Albert Davis or Jay Yoder or Neil. I don't care if you know their names and know them as this big time comedian. I just want you to get to learn that you will trust Comedy on the Crick is going to put on a good show.
Oh yeah.
Regardless of whether you know their names or not, regardless of any of that, you just know and understand. Like we've been to his show, and
he didn't
regardless
let me the
of
fuck down. He
whatever
didn't let me down,
7
right.
comedians are on that lineup, we just know it's a good time. It's a funny show, and that's what I've always prided myself on. Is I will never be one of these guys, these promoters, these bookers, whatever you want to call me, that is going to book someone because of how many tickets they can sell to their family and friends. I'm never going to be a bringer show. I will bust my ass to sell out every show I do to make sure that I have the freedom to put on who I think is funny and who's going to give me the best show.
And you definitely take control of ticket, you hustle to sell tickets.
Oh
right?
yeah,
You probably one of the few that gets out there.
and we're in a
works
nice
the
area
tickets.
to because you have southeastern PA, you got Jersey, you
Yeah.
got Delaware,
Yeah.
all within an easy distance to where you're at.
Dude, and I've always done it old school. Like print out flyers. I got a printer at home. I print up as many flyers as I can. Go out paper parking lots, putting them on car
put 'em out there.
windshields.
Like it's a hustle game. You're going to see the results, and that's going to speak for itself because you're going to have these shows where people are leaving happy, and that's
Yeah.
it. So people want to find you now. What there's comedyonthecrick.com.
ComedyOnTheCrick.com, ComedyOTC.com. There's a few other. They all go
You bought a
redirect.
few. Yeah, that's cool. That's smart.
Definitely. Like
And
Bought
then
a bunch of
Instagram, right?
domain
yeah,
names.
yeah, bunch of.
That's
We have
smart.
like 10 domain names.
And are you're on? I know you're on Instagram. And
Instagram
Facebook,
and
right?
Facebook. We have a TikTok. We never use it.
Yeah.
I get you.
But yeah, just mainly Facebook and Instagram. Comedy on the Crick.
Yeah, perfect.
CRICK. A lot of people.
And we'll pop that
Ask
in the
about
notes
that.
on. Yeah, We'll put in the. Yeah, exactly right.
What's the next couple of years looking like for Comedy on the Crick? Where are we going?
I don't know. I'm taking it all in stride. I've had a lot, I've had some potential investors, and I have one that looks pretty promising coming up. But basically is I'm not like pressed to do a lot of shows. I want to make sure the quality of shows and the quality of venues are up there.
What about this merch? I'm seeing you wear this sweet hat and this sweet shirt.
yeah,
Like,
those
are
are-
these
well,
things on the?
This is an old Comedy on the Crick shirt. We
Yeah.
don't even have anymore. The new ones that we have, I think I have 5 left. But usually what I do is every show now, what I do is I'll tell the audience, get your phones out,
Oh, yeah,
follow
that's
Comedy
right.
on the Crick,
Oh, and then
and I'll give a free shirt to a random new follower at the end of the show. And then
Do you sell
otherwise
merch on the
we
website
sell
at all?
no, not on.
Okay.
We tried doing
Dude, I
one
would
of
buy
those.
that hat. Don't you? That
Well,
that hat?
honestly, this hat
This
was
hat's
a
a special-
gift.
yeah, I
This
know
was a
about
gift
that hat.
from Liam, the
Oh,
youngest
Liam Katz.
comedian.
Liam
Good.
Katz.
Liam
Yeah,
Katz.
shout out to Liam Katz. Very
Yeah.
funny.
we have a
young man.
connection because I know a lot of his. I know a lot of the teachers at his school. So
I
it's
think
because
you're
I.
talking
Dude,
about
he's
my
a
youngin'.
he's a
He's
funny
young.
dude, and he did his first set with us at 17 years old. He's 18 now, but he did his first set with us 17 years old. He sent us his tape to get on. He sent his mother, and I don't know if his mother sent it or him, but sent us. It was he did his high school talent show.
Talent show,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
I'm like, you gotta have balls, dude. Like,
Right?
Yo,
like
in high school?
Yeah,
Oh
your
my
high,
God.
like you can bomb in front of a bar,
Right. Fuck
But
those
you
people.
bomb in front of your high school. You got to go
What?
back and see them people every day.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Kudos to him, man. He's a
Yeah,
great
so
kid.
he actually, it was my birthday show at Founding Fathers. He came and showed up and brought me the hat.
It's a nice
that's
hat.
bad.
Shout out to
Well,
Liam.
Liam Katz.
Appreciate it.
That might be.
Friend
I'll
of the
bet you
show.
how many. Yeah, that's a cool hat. Like, I
Yeah,
like that.
you should
That's
probably
cool.
duplicate that one. That one's
There's some
that's a
stuff
nice
there.
hat.
Yeah, that might be a fun thing to start. That might be the next thing. Get some Crick merch
merch.
up there. That's an
Yeah.
easy one.
We tried one of those websites where it's like you don't have to pay anything; they handle it all, and you know,
And
what I
they
mean?
just take a cut.
Campfire or something,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But like we ordered 2, and then someone else, I think it was Dan Callahan, was the only person that actually ordered one while it was up for a day or 2, and I just didn't like the quality was crap. It was just like,
well, that's it. Well, hey, I like that. I like that. You're
and
like,
I'm not
hey,
gonna.
man, the
we took
food's
it
not
right
good,
back
no
down,
good.
and it's my motto with everything.
Yep.
Just whether it's the merch or the show or the dinner or the service, if it's, I realized that's why I stopped. That's why we didn't do show for 8 months. When we went from Water's Edge and left there abruptly, we went through, a couple fire halls, but then I just stopped because I was like, number one, it's not really profitable paying for the hall and the catering separately.
Yo,
Okay.
Okay. And then also on top of that, I knew I was building a brand. I didn't want to be known as the guy who has the fire hall comedy
The
shows.
water down, and you don't want to water down your product.
Yeah. So I knew like I'm building something here. I want it to be good. So I stopped and we didn't do a show for 8 months until we came back to Blue Monkey Catering.
Yeah.
So it's just like everything else I want to put out with Comedy on the Crick. I want it to be top notch. Whether it's a t-shirt, a hat, or the show, or the dinner, the service, any of that. I want to make sure people know when they come, they're getting the
quality
best
shit.
experience.
when I talk about full circle from like, where you were and what you were doing. You're like, maybe you were making good money then, but you were doing stuff that was going to get you in trouble and not let you see your daughters grow up.
Yeah.
You got a 6-year-old and you want her to see the best version of her dad that maybe when your other daughter was 6, she didn't get to see that
Yeah,
version or
exactly.
any
That's
version of
beautiful,
her
man.
dad. And now you're doing it and you're saying, I'm gonna stick to the standard I have for myself.
Well,
and
yeah.
I'm not gonna
Earlier you said like, I
compromise.
could go make some decisions and put myself in a financial bracket that makes me comfortable as can be.
Yeah,
And
that's
he's
it.
like, but I'm
Yeah,
not.
but that's
I'm not
not-
doing that. I
that's
got
not
a
it.
promise to keep.
And that's what I mean. Like,
That's
it's
serious, man.
Anyone out there, we all have our own struggles.
Yep.
But anyone out there who is currently or has gone through real financial struggle,
Yeah.
you know that there's times where you'll be like, damn, I just do anything just to
I'll
get
do
ahead.
anything.
You know what I mean?
have
Like
you
you
ever-
have those thoughts, like
Where's this?
I just want to get ahead. I just want to breathe. I just want to release, like let go.
Yeah.
Like
What would you say to the kid that just getting out like your situation, young 20s right now, that's like
At the
on
fork
the
in the road.
teetering
At the
edge of
fork in the
going
road. There
out
you
back to calling his buddy?
you have to mentally, you have to be strong, but I think the biggest advice I could give anyone, and that's whether you're first coming out or whether you're thinking about going on a route that's illegal or anything like that, is you have to just stay determined, stay focused, and block out all. So much of it is distractions. Like when I first came home, there's so much especially with social media these days. It's so
it's
easy
right in the
to
face.
fall into stupid
FOMO, fear
shit.
of missing out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I first came home, I didn't go to parties. I didn't talk to anyone. I went to work. I went to take care of my daughter, and that was it. That was my life. I didn't worry about, because when you do that much time, you realize who's like my last year in there. I got one birthday card, my last birthday there.
Yeah.
So that shows you who
how
really
much
cares
people
for you out
still
here.
care.
Yeah.
People
Right,
come
right.
out and then fall back into, oh, my boys, my home. No, they don't give a
weren't-
shit about you.
Yeah,
They
right.
weren't worried about what your daughter was struggling with while you were away. They weren't worried
Right.
about shit you were going through.
Don't give a fuck.
They're just
They really
worried
don't.
about what you can do for them most of the time.
how much money
And you
money
have-
you're getting together,
Yeah.
and what they combine that.
So you have to learn to just like stay like almost like a horse with blinders on. Just stay focused.
Well, you have to have a goal in mind. There
Yeah.
has to be something you're looking towards.
And that's even if it is starting, like I said, when I first, that job, when I told you, the first one I got when I came home, I was in a halfway house in North Philly, like the projects, like right across from Henry Ave projects. And it was, this is down 30th and Allegheny, if you're familiar. So it's not a good neighborhood.
yeah.
And I had to take SEPTA everywhere. Like I had to take public transportation because
So you're almost
my license was still
behind the eight
suspended.
ball automatically.
Yeah. So I'm working. My job was in Warminster. I had to take a bus
shit.
to the subway to 2 other buses one way,
Yeah.
and then come back. And then, so I was doing that for a while. Now, when I first started there, like I said, it's a commission only job. He was only giving me $150 a week to start off.
You didn't
And then
have
on
money
top
to
of that,
mess
I had to bring my check back to the halfway house, give it to them. They took their 20%, and then gave me the remainder like next
$80,
Wednesday.
Right. So now you got $90.
Yeah. So, and then slowly but surely, he started giving me more. And then as he saw that I could sell, he started hooking me up because it was just handwritten checks at the end of the week. So when I got up to like $350 a week, he would give me like a $200 check to hand into the halfway house.
Oh shit.
And then a 150 check to
That-
cash for myself because
That's
he was
actually
looking
pretty nice.
out.
That's pretty nice.
You're
of
trying to
him.
find
But
ways to.
I realized later, like, yeah, he was looking out because he was also ripping me off.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
he wasn't really like doing much.
A little bit for you, a little bit for me.
I mean, dude, it's great. This is a great episode. I had a pleasure learning a lot about you and mad respect.
Yeah, I'm very. A lot of stuff I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I'm very like. It's a really refreshing story. I mean,
You notice
you're
I
one of
said
the-
mad respect because I just wanted you to know that even though I've never been inside.
that you got it. Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite part is watching Neil as I make these comments.
Yeah, Jay's got a pack of smokes. He's going to hand
It's
over
like
to
telling
me.
a dad joke and watching my daughter's eye roll. It's amazing. That's like what I live on.
Mad respect, bud.
It's like I'll catch you on the block, dude. You know what I mean, dude? Just
We're gonna go
chopping
split some
cigarettes.
honey buns after
Yeah,
this,
bro.
man. Smoke some Newport 100.
Yeah, man. I got it.
That's great.
God, man.
But yeah, man, I listen and appreciate, love what you guys are doing, and I'll come back anytime you guys want.
Dude, thank you
right.
so much, man.
Sounds like a deal.
Seriously, Dad? Seriously? Seriously, Dad?
Seriously, Dad?
Dad? Seriously?
Dad?
Seriously? Seriously?
How you doing? This is Neil Wood from the Cult of Us podcast, speaking on behalf of Drop 10 Media Network, the network you're currently listening to. Make sure to check out all the other podcasts on the network. You can go to drop10.com to check them all out. Make sure to like, subscribe on everything that you see Drop 10 on. We appreciate it. Go to drop10.com now.
This has been a Drop Tent Media production.